Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in again. I am Katie Batesman, the Content Director at She Can Code, and in today's episode we're discussing digital transformation, what it is and why it is so important. Now, digital transformation is about integrating technology across all areas of an organisation to rewire or modernise the business. But what are the benefits and pitfalls of digital transformation, and should employees be worried if their organisation is undergoing one? To help us explore this topic further, I'm joined today by the amazing Helen Marshall, Chief Information Officer at Yodel. Welcome, Helen.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for taking some time out to have a chat with us today. Can we get started with a bit of a background about yourself, please?
Yes, okay. So I didn't plan to start in IT many years ago in my
career. Hear that often.
I started working in telecommunications, working with the engineers. And in those days, that was at BT, and you would go for formal promotion boards, once a year. I did that, and you kind of got on a panel, and I got promoted and went into HR. And then a little while after, I was asked if I would go into IT. So 35 years ago, I started a career in IT. And as you can imagine, that was very, very different than it is today, with mainframes, green screens, tape backups at the end of the month. So my digital journey really started in the early 90s when we rolled out the first PCs. Imagine life without a PC, the first internet browser, Netscape Navigator, and the first email system. So before that, if you wanted to communicate with anybody in the business, then you wrote them a note and you put it in the internal mail and you waited a few days to get a response.
Gosh, several days.
So digital's been a big journey for me. Back in my days with BT, I specialised in the service world. And before moving into the technology world. And I guess probably about 15 years ago, I started doing transformation at the cable companies before joining Yodel. So it's 8 years ago. So I came into Yodel initially to do the infrastructure transformation, which was a 3-year program, and then became the CIO and took on the digital transformation. And we're still on that journey now.
Amazing. You're saying though that you joined tech in the 90s. What was that like? Was there a lot of women around at that point?
No, so it was very, very different. It was a very, very different world to what it is now. I mean, leading women here and seeing the women coming into our team now is absolutely amazing. But back when I started, which was in the 80s, when we were on the mainframe, there was definitely very, very few women in tech there. And the roles clearly were very different than they are now. And being able to nurture, sponsor, develop women, I mean, I developed the men as well, but to see now the women really flourishing and getting the careers they should have, they deserve. 2 of my former employees are fantastic CIOs now, and I've got so many women that I've seen really flourish during that time, but it was a very different world.
Yeah, you just mentioned mentoring and sponsorship there. Was that something that happened to you? Did somebody encourage you to take up a career in tech?
As I say, it was actually, you kind of went on a panel and I got picked by the HR team originally because it was the HR team that held the panel, and they asked me to be there. And then it was a little bit like secretive poaching that the tech team came and asked me, do you really want to do that for the rest of your life? And this might be more exciting and interesting. And I'll be honest, I didn't really know that much about it at the time. And what I can say is how much it's changed over that time. And we're still learning. We're still learning. We're still doing something different every single day when we get up. It is so exciting. A great world to be in.
Yes, I love that. Yeah, it's always interesting to hear how people get in, and some people come from so many different routes, and it's always lovely to hear that some people fall in and some people choose that they want to come in, but just the way that they find their way into the industry.
I think more people are choosing to come into it now because the generations we've got now, they're the first people who have grown up from birth digitally enabled.
Yes.
And so they see the value. Now I think more people are joining, more women want to join. It's now about how do you make sure they join your firm and not somebody else's. So you've got to let women be visible, and then they can be seen, and then you'll attract the right ones.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And thankfully, people falling into tech, we do still hear it often, but there are a lot more girls that are choosing the path into technology, as you said, because there are great role models now to be able to look to and think, yeah, you know, she's doing something fantastic. I want to go down that path. But you're right, when you started in tech, I doubt there were a lot of role models around, female role models that you looked and thought, yeah, that's me.
No, not many you could see at all, no.
Yeah. So today we're going to be talking about digital transformation, which is fantastic because we haven't spoke about it before on the podcast. So can we kick off with, could you briefly summarize what digital transformation is?
Yeah, I think you covered it quite well in your introduction. It really is about incorporating digital technologies into your business processes and really being able to provide that efficient service to your clients and customers through doing that, and as you go, unpicking and removing legacy. So there's a lot of things that you could choose to do. I guess for me, it's where do you start? That's the important thing, and that's always the hardest thing for people.
I think as well, I wanted to ask you, is it a necessary disruption? You just said there as well, where do you start? But do employees sometimes, or businesses, feel, actually, is this a necessary disruption, or is it something we could do without? And I suppose, how do you prove that as well as a business case?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely a necessary disruption. If we didn't disrupt all the way through, I go back to would you still be writing memos and putting them in the out tray? You know, when you look about it, the only way you can provide an efficient service is to be able to change fast and respond to business demands. And when I think about how do you start, getting the business case is really, really important. So breaking it down, because if you were to do a business case for an entire transformation, it's too big and you can't see that. So with my experience, what we did here is we started with the infrastructure transformation. So and I say this goes back 8 years ago, we ran the program to build that hybrid cloud and to rehouse it, so rehouse all of your systems. Now, once you've done that, you can then move to the microservices approach. And again, the important thing is to base it on delivering business value. So in chunks large enough to deliver business value, and that you get buy-in because you've got a proven track record, and not too big that by the time you've done it, you've lost what you were trying to do in the first place.
Yeah, because you mentioned a second ago about the problem tends to be, where do you get started? Is that how you approach it? Do you start? Do you pitch? This is what the business value is, and you know, break it down as you said, and then go from there. I suppose it can be quite overwhelming if you have to pitch to, you know, the board. This is what we're going to do.
I think, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, I go from, you need a platform first. So you have to have that digital capability, and some of that needs investment, but some of that needs the right people, the right skills. Some of it you need to build to be able to demonstrate it and show it. Once you have that, we made mistakes at first. Everybody who does transformation will make a mistake at one time or another. And I think the mistake that many businesses make is trying to do too much. So the first thing to do is to identify that huge burning platform, the big thing that's holding your business back, or the big challenge that you've got that you're unable to do, and work on that. You need the end game to understand what will your architecture be, what will your digital world be, but you can't sell it all in one go. You have to do it in small chunks and pick what's that next business benefit that you'll do.
Yeah, and you saying they're making mistakes and picking the right people, that takes a certain person, doesn't it, to be okay with, I'm going to make mistakes at work. Because some people, they really, they can't cope with failure, or I suppose it's just creating an environment where it's okay that we've tried something new in digital transformation and, you know, it might have failed, and it's okay, we pick ourselves up and we move forward. That takes a certain person, doesn't it?
Yeah, we have all because I've come from the service world, then to be good at service, you have to know no blame culture.
Yes.
So you have to know exactly what you've done, exactly what's gone wrong. The only way to get that and get that service back is no blame culture. People put their hand up and say, I've done this, I've made a mistake, and it's fine. It's harder if you sweep everything under the carpet. So that, if you move on to digital transformation, that no blame culture moves into the fail fast for digital transformation. So what you have to do is accept that we are all fallible, we're all humans, and we all make mistakes, but it's having the courage to say you've made a mistake and know you won't get judged for that, because it's easier to make a mistake and correct than keep flogging a dead horse.
Yes, and not move forward at all. Yeah. as a business as well, you know, surely the employees of that business are going to get very frustrated that nobody's taking those risks, nobody's moving forward and trying something, you know, and you just kind of stay. And in the end, you would just die as a company, wouldn't you? You wouldn't.
Yeah. If you've got the right people around you, it's all about the people and the diverse team, and the right approach in it, as in the no blame culture, and it's okay to make a mistake, then you can build innovation and creativity and that diversity in the team. Then you get more innovation, you get more ideas, more problem solving, how to tackle something.
Yeah. And what about the employees? Is digital transformation something that employees should be worried about? Are they worried about restructuring and layoffs, or do they see it as a benefit?
I don't think anybody should be worried about it. I think the only time to worry is if you want to sit doing the same job for the next 35 years, then you should worry, because those jobs won't be around.
Yeah.
Look, in all my time, you know, digital transformation is one name for the digital world, but we've been transforming the entire time, and people fear change. Some people fear change. And through every few years, there's a new disruptor, there's a new thing we have to do. And that will mean that the job you do in 5 years' time won't be the job you do now. But actually, if you're part of building and creating that new world and you harness it, then rather than holding on to a legacy world, you should never fear it. You know, every day you'll be learning something new. So I think it's about seize the day, take the opportunities, get excited, get involved, and don't fear the change.
Yes, which in technology, obviously, the change, you know, it happens at such a fast pace in technology. If it's something that you're not comfortable with, then that's not for you.
No, exactly. But when we started one of our transformations that we did with our driver app to deliver a new app for all of our drivers to help them, then some of the technology we were using was cutting edge. When we got to picking certain aspects of it. We didn't pick it too far at the start, because as we'd be delivering it, we were working with the vendors to help create new and exciting methodologies for it. So sometimes it's a leap of faith, but if you surround yourself with the right experts, and the biggest thing there is working with the business. So that's the thing that really enables you to be successful with our product owners in the business. When we were doing our driver app, we had proving groups with all the couriers, so we would get the first core component out to them, and they'd be using that back and feeding back to us the whole time. So there was nothing that we went away and worked on our own for 2 years and then went, ta-da, here it is.
This is happening.
That's what I want. They worked with us the whole way through.
Yes, because you led the digital transformation at Yodel. Can you mentioned a few things there about, obviously you have to go backwards and forwards with the vendors and make sure they're happy. But can you tell us a little bit about some of the challenges and how you overcome them?
Yeah, so when I go back to the start at Yodel, we had really grown organically by multiple businesses and legacy systems, and the growth of the parcel industry. And it was very clear from then we had a lot of instability at that time in the IT system. So that's why we picked our cloud platform to start with. And that was pretty challenging to migrate every single one of our business apps. And we did that without a single minute of downtime. And we improved our stability and reduced our incidents by 92%. So we have absolute world-class stability. So we got rid of some of the challenges there, took the noise out, so then we could focus on the transformation for the business, because now they take stability as a given. Yeah. So as I said earlier, knowing where to start is difficult. And you have to get the funding for that. Then with the microservices rollout, there's a lot of building blocks you need to do before you can lay the business apps on. So I would say for that, sometimes it is better to ask forgiveness than permission. So go and build it because you know best what you need. So it's about finding the time of when to go and ask for the money. And I think the other challenges would be that whole switch to agile, because when you have delivered to a business for what feels like centuries in a waterfall, you have the finance team and the exec want to know everything up front. How much will it be and when will it be? And that doesn't work with agile. The business have to accept that they have a big part to play in this. They're going to work with you all the way through. They're not going to give you requirements and then come in at the end. So they have a big part to play. And getting the business to understand, we're just going to give you the MVP to start with. So you've got something and then we'll iterate and build on top. And there was a little bit of nervousness for that, because there's a view that once I've got that MVP, you won't give me the rest. Therefore, I'm going to do everything. And you have to break that down and take people on that journey. So there was a big shift to take the business on the move from waterfall projects to agile projects. And that's easier when you have some success behind you. So the first one's always the hardest.
Yeah.
And then you move on, and that's fine. And I'd say the other challenge that you've got is transformation is never finished. So when you start to move your business to a digital world, it's quite a long process. So stamina, you need stamina and you need good people.
Yes, I love everything you just mentioned there, and I love the fact that you used the phrase asking forgiveness, not permission. I think it's something that more people should use, because especially if you're running a digital transformation project, you're never going to move forward if you don't, as you mentioned, there's nervousness around certain things, and it's kind of putting those people at ease and just showing. Sometimes it's just action, isn't it? And just showing, everything was fine.
Nothing to see here.
Yes, exactly. And just doing and delivering. I wanted to ask you, what is the key to success when it comes to digital transformation? Is that the key? Just keep moving forward?
I think communicate with digital transformation, without a doubt. It's all about the people. The technology is important, of course it is, but it's about the people. So it really is, you've got to get the business on board, you've got to get your finance team on board and the exec, you've got to get your business on board. The people using the tech are the most important. If you try and do something under the covers in IT and you replace what they've got, but in a digital world, you will be giving them something that they don't want, because why would you build something that replicates something you've had for 10, 15 years? So it's all about the people, from the business and the communication into the IT team. We do a lot of stand-ups, we run town halls, so everybody knows all the time what our priorities are and why they're doing it and how it maps to the business priorities. So I think that you can have great tech, but if you don't have great people and the right diverse people, you're not going to achieve anything. And I think where we're fortunate as well in Yodel is we've got the consistency with the team. Too many transformations fail because the person at the top moves on or the people move in. So we'll stop that, we'll reevaluate, we'll go in a different direction. We've had 8 years of moving in the same direction, and we've kept the majority of our team the same team that we put together then. So that stops the waste of stopping and starting and changing direction. We've just kept moving.
Yes, and I suppose making an effort to retain your talent so you can keep your digital transformation project going. You can keep it going because the same people have stayed, the same good people have stayed. Instead of just, some companies, they seem to think, people just stick around because they need a job. Companies really have to make an effort to retain good people.
What's really great with our people is to see the positions some of those people are in now versus where they were 8 years ago when we started. We've got people at all different levels, but what we can see now is how people have progressed through that, which is great to see. And, when we talk about women in IT, we have women at every stage of the career, from graduates to the end of their career. We have people at every different job type. So we've got UX designers, solution designers, senior managers, developers, QA, infrastructure engineers. You wouldn't normally get many infrastructure engineers. You're fabulous. Project managers. We have so many people, so many great women at every level.
And you mentioned that, you've mentioned a little bit as well about finding a way to get started, and that sometimes it can be quite overwhelming for businesses, even if you have good people. Does transformation have to be huge, or are regular micro transformations enough instead? Does that reassure people a little bit more?
Yeah, transformation can come in any size. The key thing is the first part of it, unfortunately, is large. When you have to build your foundations and when you have to move to a digital way and you have to build that pipeline for continuous delivery, that's a large piece of work. There's no getting away from it. Once you've got, though, and I mentioned MVP previously, when you've got to that stage for every product, then you can iterate continuously release continuously. So transformation doesn't then need to be huge. It can be fast and small. Some of the smallest things that as you size them might be a small change can add the biggest benefit.
Yes, just saying fast there, you know, in terms of the people on your team, that's got to be really fun to be part of, that things move fast and things happen. And you know, you would get to the end of the year as an employee on your team and think, look at everything we did this
how much have we done this year? Yeah. We do that when we look back at the town halls and we say what we've done, and it's really right to do that, because when you're living in the agile world, we're in the 2-week sprints. So even at the end of something major, the next things are in. So they're working all the time and they're delivering those benefits. And as well as the big projects, we have the small change board every 2 weeks that drops more things in. So they can be in a squad and they can be delivering huge business, parts of big business projects, they can be delivering business change, they can be enhancing. And so it's really important to step back and go, this is what we've delivered in that time, and here's what it's done for the business, because otherwise you could permanently feel like you're on a hamster wheel, couldn't you? But I do think that's part of the retention, because, you know, what techie doesn't want to work with great technology on great exciting projects with great team members? So for me, that's the key to digital transformation.
Your career would just rocket. You know, you're the amount you would learn. I think sometimes I'm not a fan of corporate culture where you have to get sign off for everything. I prefer being at a startup and moving very fast. But if you find somewhere that is agile and can move fast, and just, you know, mentally you know, you're happier, you progress so much faster in your career because you found a company that, you know, instead of having that eye roll where you sort of thinking, oh, it's not going to happen, oh, great idea, but it's never going to happen, you know, again, you're not going to stay, you eventually just leave.
I think that's the difference now. When I joined Yodel, then it was very difficult to start that transformation because of a belief that, oh, we've tried it before, it won't happen. When you have a track record and they're part of, you know, the show and tells that they do, that the teams do to the business, where they're showing the business the functionality they've just done, the feedback we get from the business is amazing, and they get it. The team who've delivered it get that feedback. Our Chief Commercial Officer and our Chief Operating Officer, they tell the team regularly, that's a game changer. Well, to be delivering technology that your COO says that's a game changer is the most positive message you can have.
Yeah, and a great feeling and a great team to be part of. And I wanted to ask you a little bit there about skills and how you build the right team to support a digital transformation agenda, what kind of skills and attitudes they need. From everything you have said so far, a lot of these people, they must be technical, but actually it sounds like they know how to communicate with all of the stakeholders. They know how to communicate the value of what they're doing. It's not just technical skills, is it?
No, it's not. Technical skills are great. That they absolutely have to have the technical skills. They have to have a desire for learning. If you think you're trying to integrate new world digital, but you still have to support legacy, you can't go and build 2 separate teams. So you want to skill up your people. So, for example, some of our best Java developers weren't recruited as Java developers. They were in supporting the old legacy systems. So a willingness to learn absolutely is essential, and it's about the values and the desire to move forward, move the business forward. And you've got to supplement the skills as well. So whatever we're doing, if we're moving into a new kind of technology in a new world, then we will supplement our skills with experts to come in. We'll partner with people. So we do quite a bit of partnership. If we're moving on to new technology, we've had two in the last 12 months, we've partnered with their firms, which is great because you then get into their technical teams and they develop their products with us and for us. So your team learn a lot as they go through that. So it really is about getting the best skills in your own team, but supplementing them.
Yes, so to ensure that they continually learn from other people as well. Yeah, that's brilliant advice. We are almost out of time, but I have one last question for you. What do you think is the next big thing when it comes to digital transformation?
So I guess it depends whether we're talking globally, and of course the next big thing, as we all know, is AI. If we're talking in our world, in the Yodel world and the logistics world, then there's a big shift around pick up and drop off things. So people are moving into lockers and what will that look like in the future? Because there's a lot of companies with a lot of vans on the road. So we're looking at that technology. And for us personally, our next part of our digital transformation is we're looking at our contact centre next. So that's what we're working on.
Amazing. And obviously we're still in that time continue to retain the fabulous staff it sounds like you have on your team to keep learning. So yeah, there's still a lot more. We must have you back on the podcast to hear in the future what your team have done and how successful they've been, because I would love to hear more about what you are going to do at Yodel.
I think you should hear from some of our young women. And
yes,
their view of what it's like to be part of the team.
Yes, because it sounds incredibly fast-paced and fun. So yeah, would love to hear from them at some point on this podcast. Would be fantastic. But we're already out of time, Helen. It's absolutely flown by. And yes, we will need to follow up. But thank you so much for taking the time to share your insights today. It's been a pleasure.
Oh no, thank you. It's been lovely chatting with you.
And to all of our listeners, as always, thank you so much for joining us. And we hope to see you again next time.